Hi, folks. Rick Berube here, Facebook Live on this Tuesday. What is today, the 23rd? The 23rd, I believe it is, right? 23rd of June. Wow. We're 1 week away from halfway through the year, and we are very fortunate from California, the Indian Wells office, and relatively new to the company. I want to talk a little bit about that. When I called his manager, I said, who should I interview from your office? She goes, Mark Wasserman. I'm like, okay, let's interview Mark Wasserman. So, Mark, welcome.
Thank you very much. Now I have to explain why, right?
Exactly. That's right. And you better be good. No, I'm not you.
I know,
No pressure. No pressure.
no, not at all. Not at all. I'm ready.
So tell them a little about yourself. Like, how long you've been in the business, what your production level is, all that good stuff, if you could, please, Mark.
Yeah, sure. So I won't go back all the way, but I'll sort of start when my working career started. So at the age of 26, I became a deputy sheriff with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Spent about 10 years there, had a back injury, a couple other of incidents that happened to me, some critical incidents that, along with the back injury, made me sort of rethink what it was I was going to do. I'll kind of come back to that in a minute. But anyway, decided to leave the department after a couple of back surgeries, and I've had 6 since that time, but that's a story for another time. But
wow,
it was a really tough decision. When I grew up, growing up in the early 70s, I'm 57. My favorite TV show was Adam 12 and Emergency. We only had 13 channels at the time, and I'd watch one Adam 12, and that was all I ever wanted to do, was become a police officer. And so I made that dream come true, but unfortunately decided it was probably best physically for me to move on. Anyway, went into a little bit of corporate America, worked in the trash business, which was quite a transition from being a cop to the trash business.
Wow.
And then went into city government for about 6 or 7 years, worked in the city of Indio, and just had a tremendous time there. And then 08, 09, we all know what happened. The economy stumbled, tumbled, and fumbled, and many of us in Indio were laid off or let go due to the economy. And so my wife had gotten her real estate license and was working for about 6-7 months. And I just decided, hey, that was a good time. I was 47 at the time. Decided it was a good time to jump in. And it was probably one of the more difficult times because obviously the market started to tank. But my wife and I cut our teeth on short sales. And we went to a meeting where it was a title rep who gave us a 1-page letter to send to notices of default. And so we took that letter and we turned that 1-page handwritten stamped letter into about 130 short sale transactions over that 10, 11, 12 period. So we started out in the business probably doing, I think we did 50 transactions in our second year, and those were mainly short sales. And then when short sales and foreclosures started to drop off, I had to learn how to become a regular agent, how to do listings. I had no idea how to do a regular traditional listing. It's very different than a short sale.
Totally. Yeah, you need a presentation. You got to convince them to use you. With a short sale, if you take it, they'll give it to you.
Exactly. And so it was with the short sale, the challenge was just to get in front of them. And once we got in front of them, I would say we probably listed, I don't know, probably 70% of the people that we met with, we ended up listing their property. We had 20, 30 short sales at any given time. My wife did all of the hard work. She did all the negotiating with the banks and all the paperwork, and credit to Pam, she did an amazing job. And then I worked with buyers and then made the presentations. Anyway, so I had to learn how to make a regular listing presentation. And so since that time, we've done on average anywhere from 20 to 40 transactions. And I just want to comment on that. Thank you so much for asking me to interview with you, because typically when you go to regional events, you go to national events, you don't see agents like me on stage. Mm-hmm. It's typically 200, 300 transaction agents, and rightly so. Those people, those men and women who are doing that kind of volume are phenomenal. But I'm at the stage of my life, as I said, I'm 57, where this career buys me something that is more expensive than anything else, and that's time. It's one thing, it's one of those commodities that you can never get back. And so, I was looking at National Association of Realtors statistics, and the average real estate agent, according to NAR, is a 54-year-old woman. And so, most of us in this business are second, maybe third career people who are looking for a career that's professional, that's challenging, but we don't necessarily need or want to do 100, 200, 300 transactions. And I, I was struggling with what I wanted my message to be. That's really the message, is that the majority of the agents, and you know this better than I do, the majority of the agents in this industry struggle. They struggle with lead generation. They struggle with appointment setting. They struggle with all of that. And if we could help them, if you could help them go from 5 transactions a year to 10 or 15 or 20, that would be a game changer. So anyway, that's it. I love this business. It allows me time. We have 2 adult children who live locally, and we're really blessed with them. We spend a lot of time with them. We have 2 grandkids that are close by, and my daughter-in-law is having a third. So it gives me that time to spend with them, and that's really, for me, that's the most important thing.
I love it. And you know what? It's so, Mark, that's so interesting that you see that, the 20 to 40, and to me, that's a very important part, especially with my job. And you
Right.
just hit it on the head. If I can help people doing 5, do 10, helping people do 10, do 15. And that was one of my conversations when I joined the company with Mark Stark, because the people that are doing and have what I call companies within the company, because we're full service brokerage within those people, they need tweaking and helping and so forth. But you really change people's life. It's a game changer when you show, okay, look, I'm going to help you double your income. And then next year, we're going to double it again. And we're going to,
right.
So to me, that's a very exciting part of the program, and I really enjoy doing that. So thanks for noticing that.
Sure.
So tell us, okay, and I love it too. You said the key words there. It creates time for you, and you do have that time with your children and so forth. And I'm 55. So, it's funny you say, NAR says that the average agent is a 54-year-old woman. Well, I was talking to Forrest a couple months ago, and he said the average male is 57 in NAR. Now, I don't know how he knows that, but I said, that's awesome, because I've been in the business 35 years, and I'm still 2 years away from the average age of a male.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, please. I
was going to say, so, how you keep that consistency year after year. Let's start there, and then I want to talk about when you moved to the company. But how do you do your business? Let's say you average 30, 35 a year. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's for the average agent. The title of this interview is going to be The Average Agent, right? But I think that's okay. They say comparison is the thief of joy, right? And I don't. Well, first of all, I don't compare myself to anyone else. I've been on a couple of big teams. I worked with Bob Lucido, who is the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world, does about 1,400 transactions a year. Keller Williams, when I was at KW, had a big expansion program. So I ran his expansion team in La Quinta and in the West. And one of the things that he did that I learned from him, and the guy is absolutely amazing, was he went on every single listing presentation that he does. So he has a huge team, but he does the majority of the listing presentations. And he taught me to really concentrate on the listing side. And he said something, and I don't know if he was the first one to ever say this, but when you're the listing agent, you're the employer. And when you're the buyer's agent, you're the employee. So I've really concentrated on listings. And what we do, we still do that single page handwritten letter I concentrate a lot on notices of default. Which has changed, and we can talk about that in a minute, but I've always concentrated on notice of default, because as our market changed from 10, 11, 12 into where we are today, we saw exponential growth in prices. So there were still people with NODs, but they now have equity in their homes. And so I'm able to get in front of them by sending a 1-page handwritten letter that says, hey, I noticed that you're in default. The market has changed. You may have equity in your home. And so we send those out religiously every week, 100, 200 of those kinds of letters, handwritten letters. And I get a lot of calls from that. So that's how I get in front of people. I'm at the point now, we've been doing this for about 10 years or so, that about 30%, maybe 35% of our business is referral based. So it's people that I sold homes to back in 10 or 11 who now want to sell. I've had a lot of those. A few of my friends who are deputies and are retiring, I've sold their homes, so I still have that connection. And so it's been the letter, the consistency of sending out that letter. I do some online advertising, Facebook and things like that. Facebook has changed, so I've struggled with that a little bit. And then the referral business. And I've concentrated mainly on sellers because it gives me that time that we were talking about earlier, and it allows me to control my time a little bit as opposed to, spending all of my time with buyers. I used to say I'm a buyer's agent. I love the buyers, but I was afraid of the listing presentation. And so I've really honed my skills. And I don't want to go on too long, but one of the biggest advantages to coming to Berkshire Hathaway, and I knew this 2 years ago when I wanted to come here, was every listing presentation that I've gone on since I joined Berkshire, it's a slam dunk, because most people in this marketplace know Berkshire Hathaway. They know the name, they know the brand, they know the reputation. It's a slam dunk. And I've had people say, "Oh wow, Berkshire Hathaway, yes, I'm familiar. Where do I sign?" So that's been a huge plus for us to join. I should have done it a couple of years ago, but that's a different story.
Well, it's okay. You're here now, and I really appreciate that. And as Mark would say, you can go on and on about the Berkshire Hathaway thing. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I could. It's fantastic.
No, but I agree with you. And first off, yeah, I know I've heard that saying for years about if you're the listing agent, you're the employer. And if you're the buyer agent, you're the employee. And it is a very true concept. When you take listings, you will always have buyers. But if you're only going after buyers, you're doing it the hard way because you're only getting half. Like I remember the year I closed 74 transactions. It was the first year Mike Ferry asked me to be a panelist. 26 of those were buyer sales. But almost all of those were because every time I took 2 listings, I had one buyer once I made them homeless. Sold their home. Made them homeless, then they have to buy from me. And that is, but you can't have that going unless you have active inventory, your own active inventory.
Right. So, and what we're seeing with COVID, like a lot of other markets, our inventory is way, way down. And so right now, when you're able to get that listing appointment, you really have to have honed your skills in terms of delivering that listing presentation. So you must know the market. You must know what's going on. And credit to our board, our MLS board. They've been putting out every couple of weeks kind of a COVID update of what's happening in the market. And so I think the combination of the consistency of whatever it is that you do to get listings or to get buyers, the most important thing is to be consistent. I mean, my wife has hand addressed probably 20,000 envelopes over the last 10 years. And that's probably an underestimate. But we've done 350 transactions, and a majority of those came from those handwritten one-page letters. So, and it's just been consistency, understanding the market, being really comfortable with the presentation. And I'm lucky because in my former jobs, I gave a lot of presentation to city councils and things like that. So my presentation skills are pretty good. But you got to get in front of people, and that's really the challenge.
You do, and it sounds to me like you mentioned NODs and the handwritten letters, but it sounds to me like being involved in law enforcement, you probably have a decent sphere of influence from there as well.
Yes, and a lot of as I said, I'm 57, so a lot of the men and women that I worked with back then are starting to retire, and so a lot of them when they retire, one moved to Tennessee, one moved to Idaho, just sold their house. I'm working with another one who moved to Colorado. We're in escrow on that one. So yeah, that sphere of influence is absolutely critical to being successful in the long run. But yeah, and those are the things that have really helped. And then the last piece of this, Rick, is that for the last 25 years, I've had a morning routine that has been unbreakable. So because of those back surgeries, it's really important that I keep moving. So I walk a minimum of 10,000 steps every single day. I think I did, what I do, I wrote it down. I'm impressed. I did 400,000 steps last year, 162 miles just from walking every single day.
Wow.
And then when I walk those mornings, I listen to a podcast. Brian Buffini, Tom Ferry, Joe Rogan. I love, there's a few others that I listen to. And that's really kept my mind in the game. It's kept me focused because my mind's a dangerous place to be. Yeah. And so it has really kept me positive and kept me motivated. That's been a huge part of my life. And that's one of those things I will never give up.
Yeah, that morning routine of walking, something good for your physicality, and also something good for your mind. Listen, I'm an audiobook junkie. I
Yeah,
listen to 6 audiobooks every single month minimum.
that's great.
By the way,
That's
with everybody you just mentioned, have you heard the name Jocko Willink?
Oh yeah, he's on my list. I
I was
listen
going
to
to
him
say,
all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's got a great
love him.
podcast too.
Love him.
What's
Yeah,
that
I
book
love
he's
him.
called? Supreme,
I
no,
the
Extreme
pod,
Ownership. That's a great book.
extreme ownership, extreme ownership. Yeah, the podcasts have been for me have really changed. They help to keep my mind in the game.
Yeah.
I don't always listen to real estate related podcasts. I just listen to I listen to Jay Shetty. That's kind of that woo woo kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a part-time philosopher.
Nice.
So
Me
I
too.
love to listen to all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's been the key really to my success. And again, other people may look at it and say, oh, 30, 40 transaction a year, that's nothing. I do 500, but that's my measure of success.
Yeah. Well,
That's where I
Mark,
want to be.
first off, earlier you said the average, that is not, there's nothing average about 30 to 40 transactions every year. If you look at
Yeah.
NAR, the average person does 4. So,
Right.
So
Right.
and especially with your average sale price there, you're doing very well. You're just taking your time to do other things, creating
Yep.
the income for the lifestyle you want, which is admirable, especially in today's world. It's like you have
Yeah.
one extreme or the other. For somebody to be
Right.
balanced and in the middle is very uncommon. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. It's
All right.
and that balance is a constant struggle. Trust me.
So, and I love everything you're saying. By the way, on YouTube, a lot of those audiobooks are on there for free. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, YouTube has a guy named Brian Johnson. I don't know if you ever heard that name.
I haven't heard of Brian. No.
You said philosopher. He has a little, if you type in, go into YouTube and type in philosopher's notes, he does in under 20 minutes, most of them 15 minutes or less, book reports on incredible books, like the top 5 points from each one. So if you want to, like sometimes when I'm working out, like this morning, I'll listen to 3 or 4 of his audio books. He's got like 300 on there, I think.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So Philosopher's Notes, check that out. Everybody else on here too, because everybody on here is already subscribed to my YouTube channel, or should be. So.
Right. And, well,
Shameless
I
plug.
love a guy named Alan Watts. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yes.
He's back from the 60s and 50s and 60s. Love listening to Alan Watts.
Alan Watts.
Yeah, so I get way off on some weird tangents.
Earl Nightingale, he's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
I just found on there Lead the Field. It's on YouTube for free by Earl Nightingale.
That's fantastic.
The Strange Secret's been on there forever. All right, so Mark, I always like to ask this question, okay, as we come to almost an end here, is, all right, so you've been doing this 10 years, you're a very successful agent, you have a great family life, boom, you moved here, you've been here for about, 8, 9 months, 6, 7 months now. If you could give advice to the new person or the person trying to take their business to the next level, what would be the 3 most important, you probably already mentioned some of them, but what would be the 3 most important things you tell them to focus on?
Well, number one is to take time, make time, carve out time for yourself, and allow yourself to do the things that bring you joy personally. Again, for me, it's walking, listening to the philosophers that we talked about, audiobooks and things like that. Number 2 is you have to be consistent.
Right.
And Gary Keller wrote the book, The One Thing, and multitasking is a lie. I think that's right. I mean, you have to pick one thing, whether it's going to be working with sellers or working with buyers, or like I said, the NODs for the last 9 years, even though they've ebbed and flowed, have brought us a tremendous amount of business. And so we've stuck to that throughout the whole time. So that's it. Carve out time for yourself, be consistent, and I would say, and just be a lifelong learner. This company, I have just been so impressed with the amount of education that's out there, the amount of people that are willing to help. We mentioned Gina. Before COVID, there were other people. The marketing department here is fantastic.
Yeah.
I did not know about this concierge program that we have. That's awesome. I just started using that. So, reach out to those people, get help, be a lifelong learner, take time for yourself, and be consistent.
Well, I really appreciate that. It's funny you say that too, because I interviewed a few times for this job, and I've been here 6 years now. One of the reasons I came here is because of all the tools. And first off, Uncle Warren, I call him Uncle Warren, but I've never met the man. But when he bought Prudential and turned it into Berkshire Hathaway, plus Mark Stark, our owner, I was like, that is a home run combination. And all the stuff you just mentioned, if you want to run a business, there are 100% companies, but you walk in and like, hello.
Yeah.
Here, you have total support. You have your website, your affiliations with all different people. Like you just mentioned, Maria Hill in marketing. If you want to run a business, you can't run a business for as cheap as you can here if you're using the tools and being a business. So I really appreciate that plug, Mark.
And you and Mark do a fantastic job. The support's been great. And you guys have done a great job during this whole COVID thing.
Thank you.
Of keeping all of us focused, on really what's important. So hats off and kudos to you and Mark. I look forward to meeting you in person at some point. And
absolutely,
you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah. And how did you? Last question. How did you handle the whole COVID situation? What did you do differently?
Well, I have to go back to my original training as a police officer. When you're trained as a deputy sheriff, you're taught to, move slowly, methodically, look ahead, try to anticipate what's going to happen, and that has really served me well. So I didn't jump out in front of this. When this started, I took a step back for about 10 or 15 days and just tried to see what was going on. I know a lot of people were recommending call your clients right away. I just took a step back. I learned what was happening. I tried to get as much information. Our boards have been fantastic in providing us agents information, real data. So once I had the data, then I reached out to my clients, and all of my escrow, all of my listings, I've remained consistent. I have one on hold. Everything else is either in escrow or there's an offer on another one that's coming in. So it was really just a matter of kind of stepping back, trying to anticipate what's going to happen. I still don't know. None of us, I don't think, know what's going to happen going forward. But just taking time and trying to really understand it and to really get some hard facts.
I love it.
Rather than just dealing in conjecture.
Right. And just to mention, because all those facets you mentioned, we also have an incredible broker, Forrest Barbie, who has incredible numbers. And I just saw the report this morning that if you average all the 4 markets we're in, and yours included, where we were on March 18th, as far as active listings and pendings, we dipped down to probably about 55, 70%. And now we're back and over where we were the week before this. So when people say, is the market back? Not only is it back, it's actually a little better.
Right.
So the key now is take listings. Take listings.
That's it. And that's what I'm purely focused on. I'm going back through my seller database. The last couple of weeks, I've been cleaning that out and I'm really going to focus in on that, about 500 or so potential sellers in there. And that's really all I'm going to focus on over the next couple of months, is just really communicating with those sellers and providing them with the data, because that's what they're looking for.
Awesome. Well, Mark, once again, welcome to the company. Again, you've been here a while.
Hey, thank you.
I'm going to say welcome again. It was really awesome interviewing you. Thanks for taking out 25 minutes of your time this morning. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you soon, too. Everybody else, have a great day.
Thanks very much, Rick. My pleasure.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate it. Don't you love those people? Yeah.